In April 2023, the world changed in one important and very specific way. China, long famous as the world's most populous country, suddenly fell into second place. The country taking its place? India. Now, more than a year later, India is home to a staggering 1.44 billion people, nearly 18% of all human life currently on Earth. India's median age is also nearly a decade younger than China's, and India's largest city, Delhi, is larger than any city found anywhere in China, with its 34 million inhabitants. All of this sounds quite impressive, but to much of the surrounding world, India's surging population is often seen more as a cautionary tale of overcrowding than as the ascent of a new global superpower. However, that perception may be about to change. Today, we'll be looking at one of the most interesting projects currently underway on the world stage: the India-based $20 billion trade corridor competing directly with the Suez Canal and with China. In this new episode of Looking For, we'll explore the fascinating geopolitical situation and enthralling possibilities behind the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC. India is arguably one of the most misunderstood nations on the planet today. With a complex history and world-famous cultural heritage, it's a touchstone on any map. And yet, from a geopolitical perspective, the legacy of modern India is something of a departure from the empires and dynasties of centuries past. However, since the 1990s, India's been witnessing an economic transformation that is nothing short of explosive. Tariffs have plummeted, while India's share of the international goods and services market has skyrocketed. According to the Cato Institute, globalization's carried India from being the largest recipient of foreign aid to being one of the top 5 largest economies on the planet. Issues with poverty, education, and other factors still persist, but it's clear from the data that India's reputation is overdue for an update. The world's most populous nation is on a decades-long ascent, and as we're about to see, that ascent might soon skyrocket even further. Rising to economic independence is one thing, but becoming a true global superpower is another. The golden ticket is trade. This is why for centuries, trading routes have mapped out the most successful empires in human history. From the Silk Road to the Trans-Saharan gold trade to India's own ocean trade extending back into the Bronze Age, empires rise out of their proximity to arteries that carry goods across borders. Today's empires are no different. The English Channel is the world's busiest waterway, followed by the Strait of Malacca, the Strait of Hormuz, the Suez Canal, and the Panama Canal. Through these 5 routes alone, well over 60% of all trade passes, linking Asia to Europe and Europe to North America. In an anatomical sense, it's through these passageways that major organs like China, the United States, and the European Union continue to be fed wealth and pump wealth back out to the other organs. However, in the last 10 years or so, there seems to have been an international surge of interest in creating entirely new arteries, previously uncharted, which are bigger and faster than any before. The country that arguably set this surge in motion was China. In 2013, the country announced its Belt and Road Initiative. Given its tremendous scale and ambition, many have dubbed it simply the New Silk Road. The plans to build an extensive network of overland routes through Central Asia, as well as forge new sea routes all over the globe, even potentially through the Arctic. The geopolitical implications of this aggressive project stretch from one corner of the world map all the way to the other. But perhaps no country has been more alarmed or proactive in its response than India. India-China relations. Up until the mid-2010s, India's economic ties with China have been growing stronger. But since the election of Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2014, India's focused more on privatization and liberalization, operating on a simple maxim of minimum government, maximum governance. The result has been that economic tensions have increased. After the announcement of the Belt and Road Initiative, India publicly declared that it would not participate in the project, that at least one of China's proposed new routes passes through Gilgit-Baltistan, a disputed territory, doesn't help. India and China have numerous ongoing disputes along their 2,100-mile border, only adding to the tensions involved in the development of new trading routes. Add to that several military clashes along the border starting in the 2020s, and it's safe to say the future of the India-China relationship has been hovering in flux as of late. Which brings us to September 10, 2023. That's when, at the annual G20 summit in New Delhi, 7 countries along with the EU signed a Memorandum of Understanding, or MOU. The agreement, though not legally binding, put India on an all-star team of powerful countries, including the United States, to do something bold and unexpected: take on Goliath. Rather than capitulate to China's initiative, India declared its intention to build a new trade corridor to compete directly with China. It'll be called the India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, IMEC for short. The project has received high acclaim from several world leaders. President Joe Biden and Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman have both called it, quote, a big deal. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described it as, quote, nothing less than historic. And of course, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has sounded even more optimistic, calling it, quote, the basis of world trade for hundreds of years to come. Surely, at least some of this must be hyperbolic, but it raises the overdue question: what will IMEC actually look like? Broadly speaking, IMEC will consist of 2 main corridors, one which will connect India to the Arabian Gulf, and one which will connect the Arabian Gulf to Europe. The arduous, nearly 3,500-mile journey begins in 2 key locations on India's western coast: Mundra in Gujarat, home to the biggest port in the country, and roughly 500 miles south in India's megacity, Mumbai. From these 2 points, the route will travel across the Arabian Sea, converging in the United Arab Emirates at the Jebel Ali port in Dubai. From there, the route will connect to both existing and planned railways running across the Arabian Peninsula, all the way to Haifa in Israel, and eventually the Piraeus port in Athens, Greece. In addition to high-speed rail networks, freeways, and maritime infrastructure, a vast expansion of the undersea network of internet cables has also been proposed. Cables currently travel from Mumbai up the Red Sea and eventually across the Mediterranean, reaching Italy and France. By expanding digital connectivity, IMEC will enable real-time tracking and communication, as well as somewhat literally tying Europe, the Middle East, and India closer to each other. IMEC is focused on incorporating green technology and using renewable energy sources, primarily green hydrogen. India sees a major opportunity in this particular aspect of the project, as it has one of the largest renewable energy capacities in the world and, under Modi, has been aggressively expanding its share of the renewable energy market even further. Along with internet cables, the pipeline network will also be expanded, mainly to pump hydrogen. All of this adds up to a potential revolution in the speed, efficiency, and volume of trade between the included regions. Various participants have various reasons for supporting the project. Western powers generally like the opportunity to push back against China. Middle Eastern countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE are keen for opportunities to bypass the Suez Canal in Egypt. India, meanwhile, is shooting for the moon, aiming to become the wellspring of what could be the global trade route of the future. However, the IMEC project stands in opposition to some geopolitical realities that have so far slowed, but not halted its progress. The largest and most obvious of these is the war between Israel and Hamas. Hamas's October 7th attack took place less than a month after the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding at the G20 summit. No single event has had a more significant impact on IMEC. Needless to say, it's raised tensions and brought the feasibility of the project into question. Talks were stalled for 5 months following the start of the war. This points to a broader second obstacle, which is the sheer challenge of such a large international collaboration between countries whose interests may overlap, but not always completely align. For example, while Saudi Arabia and the UAE have both signed on to the project, they've also agreed to participate in China's Belt and Road Initiative, clearly not viewing the projects as mutually exclusive and seemingly hedging their bets. Despite this, Prime Minister Modi seems keen to boost India's ties with the Middle East and keep the project going. As recently as February 2024, he visited the UAE and signed a new bilateral investment treaty. Still, progress has been slow and details have not been forthcoming. Just 60 days after the signing of the MOU, participants had agreed to reconvene and implement a so-called action plan, but amid the outbreak of a war, failed to do so. The same month, Modi was in the UAE on February 8, 2024. When asked about the timeline for IMEC, India's Ministry of External Affairs gave a vague answer, describing the project as still in, quote, an incipient stage. In the end, IMEC is a bold vision, hopeful and forward-thinking. Will India be able to interlace itself with the Middle East and the West, bringing about the so-called basis of world trade for hundreds of years to come? Or will persistent tensions and conflict remain a tether around the wings of this ambitious venture? In the coming years, the world will get to find out. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If so, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and I hope to see you soon on Looking For.